It is exactly 9 o'clock. And so our recording begins at this, your Women's Fund Plaza, where we're gathering from all kinds of places, some people locally, not everybody so locally, because we've got some speakers who are sitting in other cities. Uh, to do what? To focus on women and girls and understand what we need to know and what we can do to benefit women and girls, especially locally here in Miami-Dade. And a lot of those things are universal. So as we say at the Women's Fund, your focus is our power. So we thank you all for bringing your power together to focus on women and girls. But today I'm going to say, really, your focus is your power, because we're going to ask for some healthy egotism today. We ask everybody who's in the audience today to focus on themselves and your own networks. Today is a day of true empowerment. And I'll never get tired of that word. I don't care if people say it's used too much. It will never be used too much. Yeah, your Women's Fund is here to show great things that are going on of empowerment and what you can do about them. So I'm planning on feeling good today, and we'll have some homework as well. So on we go. Let's welcome everybody with our PowerPoint. I will say your Women's Fund can't do anything without our terrific board of directors who support us day in and day out. Thank you each and all. We thank our funders. We thank our community partners and our amazing founder, Marilyn Gladstone. I don't know exactly, but 90s plus, who just spoke at our Impact Collaborative and was talking about things that still keep her up at night. And one of them is economic mobility. Another is gender equity and inclusion that will never go away from the focus of your Women's Fund Miami-Dade. And we thank Marilyn as well. We do have representatives from quite a few of our elected officials and folks who work for different levels of government. And we thank you for your service and for being with us here today. So Viviana, our amazing director of research and data, usually would go on from here. We would be talking about a few things. We'd be talking about economic mobility pillar, which is our focus today. We would be thanking Kaufman Rawson, who is our longtime first ever pillar sponsor, our pillar sponsor for economic mobility, sponsoring our Hey Dad, Why Are You Still Paying Women Less campaign. And we're also going to talk about the economic mobility of other kind of funders, because PNC is in the house today. And we have one of the big impediments to women's economic mobility in our community, especially coming out of COVID, was the lack of quality early child learning and child care possibilities, because women end up taking the brunt of that burden still, although that's changing. Not in my brother's house, actually. They're pretty paired, and there are goals. We have lots of allies taking a lot of responsibilities, but that is a truth in our economy. And so with the ongoing support of PNC, we got a $50,000 grant to give out, some of it to empowering early learning educators and business leadership Institute, some of it also to fund the website that we put together for empowering early learning educators and more. So we thank investments in economic mobility in every single way. So thank you. Viviana then would have told you the latest data that we have. We have brand new data for gender equity index and gender equity in economic mobility is a little bit better. There are 5 metrics that are part of our score, and one of them is pay equity. So we want to say that we have a great improvement in the newest data that we have, access to 2023 data for Miami-Dade, very specifically for Miami-Dade. We have progress. The gap has decreased by 5%. So it was 18% median income in Miami-Dade, went down to 13. That is progress that is staggeringly fabulous. And we hope to maintain that into the new year, but we have to keep up the good work. We know that there's still a huge gap, that white women earned only 62 cents for every dollar earned by white men. And when we get to Black and Hispanic women, only 41 cents. I mean, as the amazing Gloria Barbier said in The Power of the Purse, really, Miami? Right? So there's much left to do. And the empowering and empowered women who are with us today are going to help us do that same thing. So without further ado, I welcome our keynote who's really here to frame today's conversation. Tisha Hyder, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Oh, thanks so much, Maria. I'm so excited to be here today. And, especially to lay the foundation for this conversation. I love how it starts with good news, because oftentimes when women think of money, it's like punitive or scary or, challenging. So I want everyone to lower their shoulders, take a deep breath, and think about their own personal power and wealth. I mean, your wealth does not define you. I have been so poor that I've been afraid to write that check at the grocery store, and wealthy enough to be able to share on the other side with the food bank. I've been, had a credit score in the 500s. I've had a credit score close to the 800s. I, have been married, divorced, and married again. And you know what that can do to your finances. But none of that defines my wealth, and none of that defines your wealth. And so let's talk a little bit about money. So, by definition, wealth is defined as the abundance of valuable material possessions or resources. And just like Maria was saying with our statistics, we know that women only hold a third of the world's wealth while being more than half the population. It's really amazing. And so we're going to talk today about the trends with this incredible group that we have before you. One of my inspirations of wealth is Madam C.J. Walker. Raise your hands in the chat, yeah, or give some love to Madam C.J. Walker if you know who she is. She is the first woman to become a millionaire in the United States. Incredibly, a Black woman. And she did it through hair. So, but hair was simply a vehicle to empower other women around her. And so that's what we do. We women are different when it comes to money. Oftentimes, we're thinking about how to better the environment, better our girlfriends, better our families. And so if you are looking for a summer read, pick up, you can't really see it with the blur, but Madam C.J. Walker's Gospel of Giving. I'm not endorsing the author, but it's a great book. Madam C.J. Walker's Gospel of Giving by Tyrone McKinley Freeman. Really interesting read. And inspiring. So that find your role model, find your person that you can look up to that is on your dinner party list to talk to about wealth. So what's exciting is that wealth is coming our way. That was part of the title, right? Women, Wealth, Facts, and Future. So by 2030, American women are predicted to manage at least 30 trillion in wealth. And a lot of this is coming through the great wealth transfer. 124 plus trillion dollars will be coming down the pipeline. And interestingly enough, we'll be able to, as women, be a part of the decisions that are made with that money. If we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit more. So the great wealth transfer, as we look at the generations, has the way to really change the way we look at our communities. When, I've been in the generosity space for about 20 years, both with donors as well as organizations themselves. And when we think about the way in which women give, we give in circles, we give in community, we invest together. We are looking at the ways in which we can have a greater impact. with our generosity and our philanthropy. But we're also looking at ways in which we can be more savvy, because having that wealth, with that wealth comes incredible responsibilities. So, for those of you who have male spouses, about 54 trillion will be transferred from men to women during the Great Wealth Transfer, because we outlive our husbands by about 6 years. So about 95% of that will be going to women. And then about 50 trillion will be going to female descendants of wealth. And so we know that, there's a large disparity as to the distribution of wealth, but in some way, shape, or form, in our lifetime, in the next 23 years, we'll see a tremendous shift, and I'm excited about that. So let's talk about what happens to our wealth. The growth in female entrepreneurship has been up, about going from about a third to about half in the US. 70% of women already invest in the stock market, and women are more likely to create change through charitable giving on the millennial generation. And then philanthropic trailblazers like Mackenzie Scott, and who's donated almost $4 billion in the last 5 years to about 465 organizations. And then Melinda Gates has also donated about $1 billion to advance gender equity, and is really, really inspiring. But you don't have to be a major philanthropist, a mega philanthropist, to be involved in managing your wealth strongly. I'll give you a couple of quick tips before we go to the speakers. And so this is where I really want you to kind of go inside and think about how these might apply to your own situation. We're going to talk about this, then, they, and that. So let's look at what's here and now. Currently, some of the best wealth advisors suggest the his, mine, ours, if you are a dual income family, or hers, and ours. But so review your current financial situation, understand where your money goes, make sure you have a budget that you go over annually, a giving ethos, so that you're not just giving sporadically, but you're giving strategically, especially because of the tax advantages, but also because it feels good. And then just also make sure you're tracking professionally. Like, are you in the role that you want to be in today that will take you into the ability to afford your lifestyle when you're, a little bit older than me. I'm in my mid 50s, but when we think about the then, in my mid 50s, I'm even closer to that retirement age. So I think about what my lifestyle is going to look like, and make sure that you're starting today using your 401k, and, optimizing your savings plans, making sure you have life insurance, your spouse and even your kids have life insurance. And then, a tip that we've been doing with some individuals is helping them reallocate their raises. So don't increase your lifestyle when you get a raise. Put that into your 401k, put that into your investment account. Think about what that means to your savings account as you prepare to be an entrepreneur. The they is about aligning with good partners. Make sure you have a financial advisor, to at least build a plan, if not meet with annually. You are involving yourself in investment groups, because that's how you learn. We learn from one another. And think about giving circles. And then finally, stay informed. That's why I love webinars like this. We realize there's a huge wage disparity. We have a big hill to climb. There are so many financial challenges for women. But I believe where there's a woman, there's a way. So I'll turn it back over to the team here. But thank you, Maria, for allowing me to share a little bit today.
Well, don't go anywhere. I never want to let you go, but especially today, you're going to join the Q&A portion after our brilliant, it's a multi-generational event today. So I am the elder, so everybody has to listen to me. Then Tisha, and then we have three amazing speakers. We need all of you. What an amazing group of people who are participating today in the audience, in the chat. We ask you, please, please, please answer the polls because we learned so much from you and it has to do with how we work. It will also connect you with others later. So great opportunities. And please do the survey that you'll get in your inbox the minute that this is over because not everybody might do things with the surveys. We do. We do. So please, please, please do that. And then again, this chat is yours. This is yours. Communicate, share resources, whatever you want. Please communicate with one another. And if you were here right on time and you put something in the chat, remember the people who came afterwards won't have seen what you did. So feel free to repost anything if you did a welcome when you first got here. So without further ado, I turn it over to our first brilliant panelist who's inspired me so much in the last 2 months that you've heard a lot from her, including during Power of the Purse. Julieta, welcome. Can you introduce yourself in 2 minutes or less? I know it's difficult.
Of course. I feel like I need to have a timer or something. Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining. I feel so inspired just being part of this table with these ladies and loved the quote, where there's a woman, there's a way. It's really what I live by. So my name is Julieta Morade, originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina, currently now in Miami. My background academically and professionally was actually in the construction world first. So I was a structural engineer, an architect, and in an industry with very few women. And what I realized in the world of construction real estate is there's very little technology in our space, which I'll cover a little bit later. So I actually jumped into the world of venture capital, where now I invest in early stage technologies for the real estate industry and construction industry. And this is now my second fund where I'm investing in early stage startups. But this fund in particular, I'm only investing in female founders, which is super exciting. And I'll share more later as well why it's a very exciting time to be investing in this space. But the reason that I wanted to highlight that venture capital and construction are similar in terms of the lack of women is that in construction, less than 10% of folks are women. In venture capital, it's less than 17% are female within the industry, but less than 4% are fund managers. So there's very few people that are actually managing these venture capital firms. And that's what's causing the lack of investment going into female founders. A few years ago, the stat was 3% of funding was going to female founders, and now it's 1%. So we're actually backtracking in our space. Although female founders are typically the ones that are outperforming male founders in terms of their ROI and their performance. And so my whole world has really gone from construction to now the world of technology, but always with a focus on a North Star on empowering women. And I do think that where there's women, there is a way. We've seen that female founders outperform male founders by 3 to 1. So it's really my mission to prove out through case studies and through funding them and encouraging others to also invest in female founded startups.
Thrilled to have you with us and more soon. Paige, I'm also thrilled to have gotten to know you and to have you with us today. Can you introduce yourself in 2 minutes or less?
Yes, I will try. Well, so excited to be here. Like I said earlier, any room when I'm with women, it gets me excited. It pumps me up. And just really, we are here to help each other, ladies, and everyone out there. This room, these are the areas that we need to come and collaborate and really move the needle in women empowerment and success. So just briefly, a little bit about me as I'm a financial planner. I've been in the finance sector well over 10 years. Love numbers and people, put them together, and finance is what I love. And the reason I thought about this, my why, why do I wake up? So money, it's an important topic. It's a tool that women can really utilize in their lives to advance their families, to, make their first purchase for their family, to save for retirement, the things that I will discuss later on. And the disparities that we have when we think about wealth is alarming. Specifically for me, being a woman of color, a Black woman in this industry, I only account for less than 1%, often known as the Black unicorn sometimes. And so it's hard. There's unique challenges that I have, but my clients that are mostly women, I work in a community that's underserved, in a marginalized community. They keep me going. My family keeps me going. So I'm excited to be here, empower women to make the right decisions with their money, closer to meeting their goals. Thank you.
So grateful to have you with us. So grateful to have you with us. And Mari Delgado, please, 2 minutes or less. You've got so much to say.
I do. I do. Well, first of all, I'm super happy to be here. Love everything that we're doing at the Women's Fund. And a little bit about myself. I have 10 years in the wealth management industry. Started off at Merrill Lynch, worked at the top team in South Florida. Transitioned over to Elevest due to wanting to work more with women. Share the same sentiment, Maria, that I don't love the empowering word sometimes, but I can't come up with a better word other than that's my why. I get so excited about talking to my clients, seeing their biggest worry, forming a plan so that all of a sudden they can sleep well at night. Working on something individualized for them so that they don't have to listen to all the noise in the news sometimes that, might not necessarily apply to them because they have a plan in place. And so I'm excited to be here today because we'll be talking about the great wealth transfer, different strategies that women can take advantage of, because I'm a really big believer that you can do good and do well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Julieta, you have insights into rooms that the almost none of us here will be able to go into. Very few of us. What are you seeing in your sector? What do we need to know?
So in particular, in my industry, which is real estate and construction, one of the biggest insights over the last 5 years is that there's been a 100x growth of technologies coming into our space. Where actually, if you've been on any job site or drove by one, you probably see that we've been building the same way for over 100 years. But over the last 5 years in particular, there's been this massive boom of technology in our space. And if we incorporate AI into it as well, now it's even larger. So we've seen about 100x growth of funding going into the space. So previously in the world of venture capital, so private funding going to early stage companies, think companies less than 3-4 years old, there's been about a dozen funds in the US that have launched just investing in this space, or very large venture capital funds like Insight Partners, Innovation Endeavors, who now have a construction specific vertical, real estate specific vertical, because they're seeing the opportunity. So it's not just an exciting space. I mean, for me personally, being able to see the career that I've always had now actually having innovation in it, but it's really an opportunity to be making really good financial returns in this space. So one of the insights that I could share is that and Madi is actually the expert in this in terms of being able to, talk to different clients in terms of where you're actually investing your money. But there's obviously the public space, and in the private space, being able to invest in syndicates with funds or being able to invest in direct startups, those are alternative kind of investments. And in our industry of real estate and construction, we're just seeing a massive opportunity to invest in this space because it's a very untapped industry, meaning technologies that are very low-hanging fruit are actually having amazing returns and exits fairly quickly because it's an untapped industry. So what I've seen as very exciting is that piece of just the opportunity. And on the other side of what we were talking about before, that's more female related, is I shared before, companies that are founded by women or where women are in leadership positions outperform male leadership companies by 3-1, especially in times of crises. And I see that through the consultancy that I have. So at Overlay Capital, I have a fund where I'm investing in these startups. And then I have a consultancy where I consult real estate developers, owner operators on how they actually adopt technology, how they use these startups. And I do pilot programs where I pilot all the competitors in the space. And I've seen it time and time again that female founders and leadership are the ones that are outperforming in terms of, how they're yielding their results. And what's also exciting is that women typically are also focused on more impact-driven solutions. So for example, in the world of climate or in the world of sustainability, 75% of startups are led by women. And so when you invest in female founders, you're not just investing in better returns, you're also investing in solutions that are more impactful for the world.
Amazing. Amazing. So exciting. So exciting. Paige, tell us what you're seeing in your sector, in your offices.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I had a slide coming up. But while that's coming up here, what I'm seeing more than ever, I think we're talking about the transfer of wealth, right? It's staggering numbers. We're going to see that women are going to have over 30.1 trillion with a T dollars when we think about wealth. So whether that's owning businesses, you said venture capital, having the assets more than ever are going to be in our hands. So what does that mean, lady? Great news, by the way. I'm excited for us. So more than ever, we really need to sit down and think about, what are we going to do with our money? What kind of decisions do we make? And as a financial planner, again, as I stated, over 90% of my clients are females. Absolutely love that. And so we need to understand where our money's going to go. And the best way to do that is to do budgeting, financial literacy. That's very important. I'll touch on that in the solutions. But also what I'm seeing is great news. Women are living longer, longevity. Maybe bad news, women are living long. What does that mean, ladies? That means that we need to save more than ever. So we are outliving our spouses. We are outliving our male counterparts. And so we have to make sure our dollars are stretching. And so what I do is empower women to invest properly, know what's going on in their retirement accounts, whether it's your 401k, your IRA, but also understanding investment strategies, alternatives. Because what I find for my women that give me feedback, do a lot of seminars on financial literacy for women, is that they just don't know. They don't have the education, they don't have the time. And so we need to bridge the gap and be more in the market, make better decisions. But again, you don't know, you don't know. And that's where I come in to create the safe space to help you make sure your dollars are working for you. And like we said, so we can give back to our community societies, ladies, as we do very well.
This is a very safe space, thanks to you all today. And there are a lot of people in this audience who have very extensive networks and they're good communicators. So you're going to be touching a lot of people today. Mari, tell us what you're seeing.
I agree and definitely share the same sentiment that Paige does. Just to start off with some stats overview, 30% of all financial advisors are women, 24% of certified financial planners are women, but then Latinas, women of color, we make up that 1 to 3% of certified financial planners. So both Paige and I to be in the room, it's not common for something like that to happen. That's why I actually collaborate with so many women financial advisors, because the wealth transfer that is taking place, there is plenty of business to go around where we should really help each other, collaborate, find your strength, find my weaknesses, and really support our clients the best way that we know how. For the wealth transfer, it's so absolutely exciting. But actually, a very recent article came out just less than a month ago from the Cerulli Associates, and it tells us that an estimated 124 trillion is expected to change the hands by 2048 as part of that great wealth transfer, and 70% of that will be benefiting women. It will first go to surviving spouses and then the following generation, but we are really about to inherit $40 trillion. And so those are staggering numbers. It's really exciting. I'll be honest with you, like Paige, a really large percentage of my book of business are women. I have male clients as well. Love my partners are male. My husband is, there are men out there that are so supportive of women, and they are so important in this conversation. But it is exciting when the woman is in the room, because there's a different conversation all around. We are caretakers. We're thinking about our parents, our kids, our family and friends. Like Julieta said, when you are investing in a woman, you really are investing in the community, because that's what we turn around and what we do with our dollars. My book of business is mostly women. So what am I seeing now? I'm seeing a lot of women wanting to align their money with their values. And I already see that when you see something in the news come out that you don't necessarily align with, you want to stop shopping there, you want to stop sharing, whichever company said or is just not working or aligned with you and what you believe in. So women turn around and invest in that same way. I can give you a brief example. Julieta mentioned climate. I think climate is extremely important, especially us being in South Florida. But it could be as simple as, if you're spending your free time at an animal shelter, are you turning around and investing in companies that do animal testing? And so it doesn't necessarily have to be this, climate, environmental, or what you see the most in the headlines, but it could be as simple as, what are you doing with your free time? And how are then you turning around and possibly hurting it with your money and with your wealth without necessarily noticing, purely because of maybe your advisor is not bringing this up. So that's what I see a lot in my own clients, that they specifically ask me for a wanting to get away from certain things or wanting to invest more in certain things. And then what I do with my clients as part of being a certified financial planner, which is a really, it's a really wonderful designation to have, because I need to understand insurance, tax planning, estate planning, investment planning, and even the behavioral part of money and how does that impact your decisions. And so what I turn around and do is that I look at the full picture, and with that comes, what different strategies could we implement for you that could benefit you from a tax efficient way. And so what I wanted to talk about today was a donor advised fund, because I feel that a lot of
So
women.
we will get to that. We'll get that
Okay, good for it.
in the next segment, if it's good for you. So
Yeah,
'cause now we're gonna go
absolutely.
back and we're gonna so now what are we doing about all this stuff? Give us some fishing poles. And so
Good.
we'll go to Julieta and
That
now
sounds
tell
good
us
to me.
what we can do while everybody does their poll and talks about how they want to meet with each and all of you. So what can we do, Julieta?
I was actually, what Mari was about to say, I'm really excited to hear, because that's exactly the direction that I want to go in as well, is in terms of thinking of, if you have the means, where are you putting your savings? Like, I have a lot of friends who have the means to be investing their savings and they do not. And actually, something that I learned from Elvest, who invested in my last fund, is that most women who have the opportunity to invest don't, and most men who do not have the opportunity to invest do. And so there's a massive gap there. But for women who are interested in the world of, for example, climate, so climate tech is anything related to how do we actually bring technologies into our industries to reduce global climate change and carbon emissions. And in the world of the built environment, my industry, 40% of carbon emissions globally is due to my industry. So that's why I'm so focused on this space, because we have the biggest responsibility. For example, small example, just cement alone, the concrete in our buildings are responsible for almost 10% of global carbon emissions. So through my fund, I've invested in technologies like Terra CO2 based out of Colorado that have zero carbon in their cement, female leadership in that company. So we're seeing incredible solutions in this space. So if you have that curiosity, being able to talk to folks that on this call in terms of, wealth management, but really having the curiosity to say, how can I get more involved in the world of startups or funds? What does it mean to do this? And there's a lot of syndicates out there where it's women investing together, a less risky opportunities to invest in funds, for example, because they invest in a lot of startups, versus angel investing is you're backing one startup. And, typically that's a riskier position to be in. So if you're very passionate about specific space, just having that curiosity and understand, where in the private sector can I actually dip into, early stage investing for startups, or maybe I want to do later stage, or I'm curious by syndicates and funds. And where that curiosity could lead you is being able to actually invest in the space of private sector. And if you're more interested in Overlay Capital specifically, I'll send over a deck here, and happy to share my email in our chat to share more about the world of construction technology and real estate technology.
I cannot wait. This is so exciting to me. Stay curious. This is an exciting place to come every month and stay curious, people. Isn't it amazing what we're learning today? Paige, tell us, what can we do? Give us some fishing poles.
Yeah, so I'm going to be more on the practical side with this. And really, Julieta and Marie talked about some great points. Love being in this room with them. But first things first is, audit your information. Have you sat down with an expert, someone like us who are professionals who can guide you? And my specialty is, ladies, creating that safe space, not judging you. There's no such thing as stupid questions. If you don't understand, I create a space for my female clients and male, to make sure that, hey, I'm here to educate you. I'm the expert, but I want to help you. So the practical aspect is we are busy. I'm a mom. You're juggling a lot. There's a lot of entrepreneurs and boss ladies on this call, but don't let time stop you, because every day counts. So we think about your money, compound interest. We talked about investments. If you would like, we do have strategies for my clients where you can pick the type of accounts or the type of funds you want to invest in companies, like we talked about, whether it's in your portfolio or with your dollars. But if we don't have the base fundamentals in place, I would start with that. Investments, it's sexy, it's great, and that is an opportunity for women to grow. We talked about risk. We don't take as much risk as our male counterparts when we think about investments. And then long term, that affects our growth and our wealth. But again, just coming back, looking at what you have, understanding the whole picture. Life insurance, we talked about that. That's very important. That can disrupt your life, when your spouse has insurance. Make sure place. And last point is be involved, ladies. Sit down with your spouses that are awesome, right? Or if you're by yourself, be involved in the conversation about money, because what I see is when something happens like a premature death or disability, you don't know what's going on in the financial picture. And that can be a lot and overwhelming. So start to take the steps, even if it's small, to understand what's going on in your household and how can you advance that step. And again, having the professionals to help you and engage is the best thing to do.
That's so wise. And let me add on to that, and with your kids as well, right? Village elder here. Not only do I talk about it with my father, but I really need to do more and more with my daughter as well, because she deserves to have this education and ongoing information. So that very, very sage and very wise. Thank you so much, Paige. Marty, go ahead. I'm really interested in talking about the taxes and all this kind of stuff too. Teach me.
I'll teach you. I'll teach you. So what I do with my clients is I really take a step back and I ask them so many questions. I really want to make sure that I hear them loud and clear so that I could build a plan that makes sense for them specifically. So I work with all my clients on an individualized basis. But for today's sake, I really thought that talking about donor advised funds is a really great strategy considering where we are in the market. I know there's been volatility. Today's probably going to be a rough day. However, overall, the market has had a good run. And so most people that are in this call overall have some gains that they could take advantage of or wanting to reposition. But already women go out there and they look at their local nonprofits and they write a check or they make donations. And that's the most common ways that women are giving back. However, there are ways where it could be a win-win both for the nonprofit and also for the donor, which is taking advantage of a donor advised fund. There are Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab are the top 3 players that really have either no minimums or very low minimums, very low fees. And so it's anybody can really take advantage of an instrument like this one. And the way that it works is, for example, if you go ahead and you write a $10,000 check, then you are going to be deducting that $10,000 amount from your taxes if you are itemizing. When you utilize a donor advised fund, let's say you have $10,000 worth of Apple, but now you purchased Apple at a lesser amount than $10,000. Let's say you have embedded gains of $3,000. You are essentially removing those gains from your portfolio, still making that same amount donation to the charity, but now you have implemented a strategy that allows you to save taxes by removing those long-term gains from your portfolio. This is a great strategy to talk to your advisor about. Say, these are the nonprofits that I would like to support. You can even set up a cadence so you do this on an annual basis. But really the idea is that as long as they are a 501c3, you can do so. speaking of data, affluent women influence 85% of giving decisions. So I definitely, this is what I see real life, but also the stats back it up. Women are giving back towards their community at a larger scale than our male counterparts. And so with the great wealth transfer, I think it's important for women to have education around their options so that they could really be, they could be more impactful and just being having more. I can't come up with a word. I am an immigrant. I'm originally from Colombia, and there's times that I forget words in English. Intentional. So you want to be intentional, and you want to make sure that you understand what your money's doing for you, what your plan is as part of your, your kids, your parents, whoever you are trying to look out after, even yourself in your own retirement. And then how can you implement that plan in the most tax efficient way? And because you're on this call, I really think that donor advised funds could be a great strategy for you. More than happy to tell you about it. But really, it's just having that conversation with your advisor.
This is so rich in so many different ways. This is amazing. So we're going to ask people to start putting their questions in the Q&A. We've got some people are texting them to me. I've got all kinds of questions here, and we're going to ask Tisha. We're going to ask you to join us as well. I'm going to take advantage. It's not the best link, but one great thing that you can do to get money back for your taxes if you want to support the Women's Fund and Leap for Ladies that works with women who are formerly experiencing incarceration is you can take like a 1 gold earring, some sterling silver, that like an old tray that you don't want that's tarnishing, and you can take that and there's a great way to donate it. So you can follow that link there. Actually, the executive director is here on the call today. I saw her. Welcome. She's in the house. So anybody has any questions about that, you can get it straight off your taxes without taking any cash out of your pocket and take some conflict-free gold and silver and benefit the charities that you care about, and then spend it on something else. Spend your tax saving on something else. So Tisha, can I ask the first question for you that I got here is can you talk a little bit about the power of women in philanthropy?
Absolutely. When I think about Florida in particular, of that great wealth transfer, it's going to be about $900 billion. And so Florida itself is really dynamic. I mean, there's about 10,000 people per day moving to Florida. So welcome, Mari. It is an incredible community that really focuses on not only supporting the local nonprofits, but also giving back to places internationally. So when I think about philanthropy, the importance of philanthropy, it kind of goes back to another thing that Mari said. You can do well you can do good as while you are doing well. And having that focus, that intentional focus on building your family's giving ethos is really, really key. So for me personally, having to sitting down with my husband and our 5 kids and talking about the things that we give to, the way in which we use our donor advised fund for Christmas gifts at the end of the year. I mean, they're all adults. My youngest is 25. So, and at this point, it's not, tons of presents under the tree. It's real intentional conversations about where we can have impacts on the things that are important to them and how we can support the things that are, align with our family ethos. So we, for example, support the arts. We've decided, that's something that's a passion of ours. We support women and children, especially as it comes to food insecurity and home insecurity. And then we also focus specifically on domestic violence. As a survivor, that's something that's very, very important to me. And so having those giving ethos helps me understand how I can make an impact in those 3 areas. And so I would suggest sitting down with your families, understanding where you'd like to give, where you'd like to make an impact, and how you can be a part of solving some of the challenges in the community.
Talk about a safe space and talk about strong, empowering conversations. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Tisha. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
The next question is from one of our attendees. It says, as a 60-plus-year-old woman planning for financial security in retirement, what is the most effective strategy to ensure a sustainable pension and wealth management, especially considering the unique challenges that women face? So I am going to go to you, Paige, and then to you, Marty. Do you both want to answer? Paige, go ahead.
Yes, that's a great question. I have clients with all demographics. So being a 60 retirement age right now, technically is 59 and a half. So you have access to retirement accounts that you can use. But again, like I talked about in your situation, I'm working with a client as of yesterday in her 60s. We sit down, like Marty would probably mention, we have tools that we can use. So we'll gather that data and figure out your picture. And then from that point, I'm all about lifestyle. How much income do you want in retirement? What do you have? Do you have a pension? Do you have Social Security? And recently, like one client, do you have maybe a lot of old retirement accounts that we can consolidate because you're overlapping your fees and your investments? So it's about just sitting down, looking at what you have, and in your situation, yes, an income plan. Like I talked about earlier, women are living longer. So how can we make sure that dollar stretches? And as we all can see right now, the market's crazy. Maria and I were on the phone probably all day talking about it with our clients, right? But also we have to think about taxes. Today's dollars aren't future dollars. So the experts come in, and I will tell you, just having the conversation will help you feel better. Because if you aren't aware of what you have, then that makes you insecure. And, like we talked about, Tisha, anxiety. But what I do is say, hey, it's going to be okay. We can't change the past. Let's just figure out what we can do now to help you have that quality of life like you deserve. And again, for your next generation as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Marty.
Sharing a lot of what Paige said. Having my background at Merrill Lynch, at Ellevest, focusing on wealth management and wealth building, a large part of my career. I've recently started working on wealth protection. So some, like my clients at that age of 59, 60, anywhere 60, 65, there's different strategies that you can implement for clients in this point of life that can add downside protection, income protection. There's different, again, everybody has a different, not only size of the portfolio, but also needs and legacy wishes and different types of goals that they want to accomplish in this new stage of life. I recently heard a podcast that really changed my mind frame as an advisor, I'm always preparing clients for retirement, but as women, I don't think we ever retire. I think that we just like shift, and maybe, so a lot of my clients have not retired, and I've ran financial plans for them that they're like, what if I stop earning any money? But they end up earning more money because now what they do during the retirement phase is that they pour their love into their hobbies that they're passionate about, and they end up making money either way. Because typically when you're doing something with so much passion, money tends to follow. So a lot of women don't retire, they just do a shift. And so how can we work in that new stage of life? And how can we make it be the right thing for you, allowing you to sleep at night? So whether that is implementing different strategies, there are a lot of things that we can do out there. The first question is just telling your advisor, being as clear as possible with numbers if possible. So this is the income I want to have. These are my expenses, discretionary, non-discretionary. So as detailed, as quantifiable your goals can be, you're making your advisor's life just a tiny bit easier, because then that person can turn around and make a quantifiable, I don't even know if that's a word, but a quantifiable plan that they can move forward with and hold each other accountable which is really important. Accountability is key.
Amazing. Julieta, the next question's for you. We have a lot of nonprofit leaders who are on the call today. Can you talk a little bit about how nonprofit leaders can invest, putting our money where our mouth is, whatever funds that we have, liquid funds or endowment funds we might have, without making the profits lower for the organizations that we are tasked with protecting and growing?
An amazing question. And the exciting thing about that for me is I actually entered the world of technology through a nonprofit first. So when I left engineering, I joined a nonprofit that went through Y Combinator, which is one of the largest accelerator programs in the world. Airbnb went through there. And so I actually learned a lot about how a lot of folks have this thought that nonprofits are organizations where, you cannot make obviously any profit and you're not reinvesting it, but that's actually not the reality. All the funds that you bring in, you could recycle them back into your company to grow the company. And then another thing is in the world of venture capital funds, folks are also able to invest in them through that lens if they're making impact. So Madi before was mentioning DAFs, which I'm sure Madi could go into way more detail than I can in terms of those investment vehicles. But there's actually opportunities that you could invest into impact investing. So for example, in the world of my last fund was all around affordable housing technology. So that obviously has an impact angle. My fund right now is all focused around the global climate crisis and how do we invest in technologies to lower our carbon emissions globally through that construction lens. And so because that has a direct angle into impact, folks that are investing in my fund, they're not just investing for the 3x return that you get in a few years, they're really investing because they're passionate about climate change and how can we reduce our effect on it through the real estate industry. And so there's a lot of opportunities to actually go into different kinds of vehicles. And I always think that those kinds of conversations are the most helpful with your financial advisors. I almost think of financial advisors as like a therapist in the world of how you make investments, because you get to share with your therapist, I'm so passionate about changing climate change. How can I do that with, my dollars? And so being able to do that, sure, you could do it in the public markets if there's companies tackling that, or in the private markets. Likely in the private markets, in the world of venture capital, that's where technologies are really disrupting the sector. And you could do that through vehicles like DAFs, where it's more of an impact investment. And so it looks a little bit different. So to nonprofit leaders or for-profit leaders, I think everyone could have this kind of conversation. And there's a lot of different options of how you could invest again into technologies, into funds, and into other private vehicles.
Tisha, do you have anything you want to add on to that? Thank you, Julieta.
Yeah, and I see in the Q&A how the question is also pivoted to, where can nonprofits go to find these women of means to get support. And so I would suggest going to funds, community foundations, where women gather and look for ways in which they can be a part of impacting together. Make sure you have your financial story. This is not about presenting your nonprofit as, this is what we do. That story doesn't fly with major donors. We need to make sure that you talk about the uniqueness of your organization, the impact that it's made so far, the funding that you need. If I had $10 million, this is what I could do. So the impact that it could have in the future. Because having those measurements, tying metrics to your mission is absolutely critical when you're talking to high net worth individuals, and especially those who want to have an impact with their philanthropy. So that would be my advice. Focus on your financial story and then follow the money. Go where they are and make sure you connect.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, what is, and I think we'll go with you first, Marty, and then you, Paige, this time. What is your best advice for young people who don't have any experience in investing yet or building wealth at all, especially coming from humble beginnings? Marty.
The financial industry has so many vehicles that allows us to start with a very small, $10, $20. There are, again, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, all can help you open a brokerage account, which is an investment account with either no minimum or a very low minimum. So my first piece of advice is just get started, even if it's with a little bit. I like to have everything almost like in compartments. So for example, if I spend $25 by going out to eat, $25 to $50, can I maybe just turn around and invest that on a weekly basis and then maybe not go out that one day, or something like that, so that in my mind, this is money that was already going to leave my wallet. Now, instead of putting it towards an Uber Eats order, maybe I can put it towards my future. So you can start really small, but it is about consistency. If you have the ability to start early, please take advantage of it. I was lucky enough that for my kiddos, I have twin babies. They're 1.5 years old. As soon as they were born, I started their 529, and I started their 529, their UTMA, their education, all the good stuff. But I started it with a very low amount because hopefully I have such a long-term horizon that I can build that account for them. So the earlier you start, the better. I'm here for anybody in this call, but I'm always here to be a resource. So if you want to shoot me an email and just say, hey, Madi, I have this $50. What can I do with it? Let's have a conversation. Let's grab a cup of coffee, because if I can help you in any way, just having that knowledge of all the different options that you have in your toolbox, I'd be happy to do so.
Amazing. Paige.
Yes, well said, Maddie. I love it. So first, I love when you said humble beginnings. So my story, Tisha, I am a domestic violence survivor as well. I was a single mom. So I was like rock bottom financially in all aspects. And so that kind of grit helps me really be able to relate with people who come from nothing or little to, again, I work with affluent clients, physicians who have high net worth, right? So, but the privilege that I have being in this business is I don't have thresholds. I do help those where they're at. And so kind of a client story to keep it brief. Unfortunately, she passed. We were really connected. Was domestic violence situation. And I remember before she passed and I changed her beneficiary to her daughter, she said, Paige, I really want you to empower my daughter. I want her to be in control of her financial planning. She's young, so transition, she passed, unfortunately, was very sad, but now I'm helping her daughter and it feels so good. So what I'm saying is, like Marie said, I go to colleges, I talk to students, and I love the youth. I absolutely love you all. You're the future. If you're on this call, you're amazing. Keep going. Starting young, it's simple, but it's powerful. So what we do in our line of work, what I do is create money traps. So systematic things, you'll hear that word systematic, where even if it's $10 going to your high yield savings, or if it's $50 a month going into an investment vehicle, you have time on your side. We have clients that are in their 50s and 60s, and they said, I wish I met you 20 years ago. I wish I started younger. Don't be hard on yourself. Financial literacy, as we know, there's a gap there, but that's why I'm in the business, and I know Marie as well. So again, we're here, you're in a safe space. I love that there's women in this business. We need more, but we can meet you where you're at.
I love these girls. If I can just add one quick thing
Please.
too, is invest in the things that you like and that you use. So think about, if you're spending at, Louis Vuitton, curb that a little bit, but invest in it. Like be an owner, be a stakeholder in the things that you love. And, for me also, it was Disney when my kids were little, and that Disney from the time that my daughter was 4 and now she's 33 it's just incredible. So start with things that you love is my advice as well.
Yep.
All of this is
And we can help with that.
I wanted to just add one more thing. If there's anybody on the call that would like to have either both Paige or myself on a financial literacy standpoint, we'd be happy to do so, because I think education is the biggest tool for anybody, especially starting earlier. I presented at Nova yesterday, and it just brought me back so many memories, but it's exciting to give back, because the more that you know, knowledge is power. So if anybody needs us to do anything financial literacy wise, I mean, that's that's my jam. I love to do that.
Knowledge
Yes.
is power and focus is our power. That's how we started to say your focus is our power, empowering the Women's Fund by bringing these opportunities together, this safe space, and to say that it's true that economic mobility is tied to freedom from violence, right? So there's support
Mm,
wherever where anybody
I love
is.
it.
There's support for freedom from violence. There is support for health and well-being because that's also tied to the other two, and leadership, which is our fourth pillar. Seeing leaders like you all today gets all of us going and helps us refocus on ourselves. So of our 4 programs, we thank you for being a part of this one today. Everybody in the audience, you are incredibly important and your networks are important too. So please do share the recording, invite people in the future. This is your Women's Fund,